Okay, so the first thing I do is I spray the feathers so they don't interfere. This is just water with a tiny, tiny drop of furry liquid. Then I use handle 3 with blade number 10. I do vary the sizes of scalpels that I use, but this one is quite effective because this fan is quite small, so smaller cuts. Then you can feel that this is a kind of different consistency to the skin, which is much thinner, and if I put my finger there, then you can virtually feel it coming through the other side, but this is much denser. So what we want to do is take off the top layer that conceals the quills. I'm hoping that you can see this, but this is quite fatty. So what I would do is I take off that top layer. And this will come with experience, just knowing where to cut. But using a smaller blade, more control, just to take that top layer off. Which I can feel my blade running against the top of the quills. And you have to be careful to not chop the tops off. You can see I'm taking off that top layer. Get rid of that. Okay. I'm going to try and just bring this in a little bit. See? Okay. And it does continue down here. I assume you can see that as well. Okay, up here there's quite a bit as well. So it's just about feeling. So I know there's a lot of taxidermists that have different methods for this, and I do another method where I detach the entire tail, so I make a cut and take the train off, and then I just work on it tangibly whilst the rest of the skin sits in the freezer or the fridge, depending on when I'm going to mount it. You can do that. I used to do that quite often. As I was a bit paranoid, but I feel as though now I have done it a fair few times, so I don't necessarily need to. Sorry if my hand is probably blocking what I'm doing, but so I'll just take the rest of the fat off and then I'll do another video. Okay, so I've taken off the top layer of fat. Not all of it, granted, but just want to be careful to avoid making errors. Oh gosh, that's a bit macabre. Let me put that away. Okay, right. Again, I hope that you can see it. I'll bring it a bit closer. So my main concern now is to get rid of this large tailbone there. Like I said, most taxidermists have their own way of doing it, so by no means is this the correct way or the right way, but it's my way and I found that it works, so hopefully it will work for you. Okay, so I use just regular pliers just to detach on either side. There's obviously some sinew there, so I just cut through, just makes it easier. Okay, make sure that's nice and free. And then I cut the sides. Just to loosen it up a bit. Okay, and I travel my blade underneath. Starts to become a bit freer. Underneath. Pull it forward. Okay, so you get a good handle on it. And then before I do anything, I just clear off this bit of flesh. Just because if we can clean while we go, just make sure you can see that. I hate a messy workspace. I'm sure everyone has their own ways, but I'm quite pedantic. Okay, and then start to break it apart from the bottom up. Again, just my way. The objective is to have this clean. So as long as you're doing that, I don't suppose it matters exactly how you get there. So with some birds, you keep this bone, but not today. That's it, that's what you want to hear. Careful if it's a bit sharp. Okay, still a bit tight. Aha, okay, so now you're taking out the last part of the bone. So that's good. And it should be easy from here, she says. There we go. So again, just be careful if it's sharp where you shattered the bone. There we go. Okay. And then just cut away what it was concealing behind, which of course has to go. Check there's nothing down there. There's a little pocket there, I don't know if you can see that, where the very, very tip was sitting, which was that triangular piece. Sat neatly in there, so we want that nice and clear. Okay, and just check there's no bones running through the middle. Okay. You can almost hear when you break through. And then again, as before, getting rid of that extra flesh and fat. Keep your blade sharp. I do constantly change them just for a better cut, but later I will use a dull blade as well, so keep them, don't throw them away or put them in a bin or anything. It doesn't take a great deal of time, this part. The next bit does take a little time. I usually do it in about an hour, hopefully. But like I said, there's no rush, just the objective is to have it clean. And okay, so this is worth mentioning. If I find that there's any flesh it's in the feathers, I get tweezers and bits being stubborn, which is typical. And all the while, because you're handling the skin, obviously it's still cold, but I keep it moist. And I've got wet towels on the inside of the skin just to keep it moist as I work on it. Okay, so I'm just going to have a little go at cleaning out a little bit more around these tail quills, and then I'll do another video. Okay, so now the objective is to separate the quills of these lower tail coverlets. So the tail, these upper tail coverlets, they run into the main fan, and the peacock's tail is specially structured so that you can always see the oculus, which is the eyes. So they run in a sort of kind of semicircular fashion, and they're kind of bowed. So these ones are just these lower tail coverlets. So we're just going to deal with these ones first. So obviously all the fat, these should be able to move freely now. There's nothing in the pockets where the tailbone was. So I have this lovely tool. It's just a modelling tool. And what I tend to do, again, this is just my way, in order to get the fat out that is in between each one, just run it through, just to free it up a little bit. Just careful not to nick the skin, so do that a couple of times, just to free up the fat. Okay, and I do it on this side. Okay, and then you'll see that there's quite a lot of sort of excess. So carefully with a sharp blade, again just loosen some of that up. And then anything that's hanging off, and I just use the tweezers, and and that kind of collects. You can see here, it's not very nice, but it collects the fat. It's quite a simple way of getting it off. It takes a little bit of elbow grease. After a while, it hurts, but again, that objective is just cleaning them. And now I know quite a few people use a steel brush at this point, either a handheld one or the wire brush machine. And I will be using the wire brush machine, but not at this point. I like to sort of free up as much as I can at this point by hand before taking it to the wheel. And the thing about that is just that I'm not as experienced on the wheel, and I'm paranoid of making too many holes. So I try to do as much by hand as possible. You can see here there's one underdeveloped quill, so just going to be careful with that one. Again, a little bit of fat still hiding there. And I haven't done anything to this back end, so don't worry about that at this point. And then I repeat the whole process. So I get a little bit deeper. And it actually really helps if you hold these and you can push them up. Just careful handling the bird, that's all, so you don't put out any feathers. So you get quite a lot of that fat out just by doing it this way. Again on that side. Just super careful not to make holes. Okay. Okay. Now the problem with this, doing it this way, is often it bows these out of shape, so they become much wider than they would regularly be like that, and they become much wider. So I only use this pair, that's why I put the red label on it. These are my sort of peacock feathers. Peacock tweezers, sorry. So I only use those, and then I use other ones for pruning and grooming and things, because these ones obviously are out of shape. So just be aware of that when you're, if you ever attempt this method, which I hope that you will, that you're going to need to sacrifice probably a pair of your tweezers, because it will change the shape. Okay, and now you can see there's quite a lot, oh gosh, quite a lot that's collected up under here, so just running my blade underneath. Sorry, I'm probably concealing the entire thing at this point, but try and... So again, there's nothing in there, that pocket's completely empty. Okay, just... Okay. So that's by no means completely clean, but this moves us on. I might actually just try and zoom in a tiny bit. Hoping that's a bit better. So you can see that they are fairly free, but they're still quite dirty. So this is when I take the wood flower, and I'll put a link to where I purchased this in the video description. Get a handful of that, and I rub that in those tail feathers, those lower coverlet, like that. So quite generous. Again, absolutely paranoid about keeping a clean space. And then the same tweezers that I used before. And what happens is the final time that you do it, and let me just focus that, if it does. Yeah, so it takes a lot more, and I think that's because this gives grip and it clings to the moisture, and thus it sort of takes it off a bit better. So yeah, running it for the final time. See what I'm doing, and it's not completely blind. Just concentrating on these feathers at the moment. Careful of that one because it's a bit weak. And again, go back and clean up anything that's underneath that's been agitated and pulled away. And there is a second pair of feathers underneath here, but they're only little. Okay. And you can see that those ones, I mean, again, they're not entirely perfectly clean, but those ones are pretty much there in terms of the top of the quill. So now we're just going to work at the bottom of the quill. Push the skin back. run a little bit more wood flour, and then I go I know that the wood flour conceals what you're doing, so it makes it hard for you to see what I'm doing, but hopefully just by watching it will make sense. Get right down. Again, I'll stand behind because I'm probably blocking it. And this really isn't taking me that long at all. I know we haven't done the fan yet, but with regards to these ones. I will do this perfectly, but for the sake of this video, I'll move on to the next bit and we'll come back to that in my own time. It's so addictive. And I think the perfectionist in me is paranoid. I have to get all of it, but I'm going to stop and do the next bit. Sorry about the dreadful squeaking. Okay, so exactly the same as before. Wood flour. And then probably going to block it with my hand, but driving the tweezers through. And again, I tend to stop sort of every kind of 10 minutes, just stretch, just because I know you can get repetitive strain doing this sort of work. Or like carpal tunnel, something like that, which I have had, which is quite unpleasant, but that wasn't from taxidermy, that was from baking a cake. And continuing now you can see there's some part, I don't know if you can see this, but there is some fleshy parts that run underneath. I doubt you can see that, but there are any parts that are not required, they can come out. And sometimes if you get a big chunk, you can go back to your scalpel and you can skin it out by hand. Probably quite difficult to see, but then when it's moist, I put a bit more wood flour back over. Just continue. Now this will go to the wide well, but like I said before, I do like to get as much done by hand. That way I know that I've done most of the work and the wheel can do the rest. And I'm sure I'll get lots of people contacting me saying, oh, well, why don't you just do this? It'd be easier, blah, blah, blah. But this is a technique that I enjoy. I don't mind doing this work. It's good for peace of mind for me, knowing that I've done it and knowing that I've done it well, I suppose. It's also easy for me. If I was in more of a rush, I would probably spend more time at the wheel. But like I said, I'm quite new to it. I only just built it several weeks ago, maybe a month ago, so I haven't had a great deal of experience on it. And it saves time on lots of things. Oh gosh, wasn't what I wanted. At the moment, this suits me. And really it doesn't take that long. My last video was only 6 or 7 minutes for that, so you can see that if you put your mind to it and get it done. Okay. Some of these are a little bit soft. Now, I'm no expert with birds anatomically, and thank you to all the wonderful ornithologists who have got involved to help me with questions that I wanted answered. So I don't have necessarily all the appropriate terminology, and I am trying to get better, but some of these feathers some of the quills do feel sort of, what I said before, underdeveloped or damaged in some way. They're really weak and soft and watery. I'm sure some of you out there will know why that is, and you can tell me. I'd be eager to know. Now, it looks like I'm going quite hard and aggressive, but I very rarely pull any of these feathers out. I've pulled a couple of these out in the past, but I've never pulled a feather out this way. So I would start off relatively slowly and then sort of get more aggressive as you get more confident. But it's just knowing how much pressure to apply. And if the skin, where you're handling it starts to get too warm, just wet it again to keep it moist. And like I said before, there are wet tissues inside the body, just keeping it moist the whole time. So you can see again, starting to make more progress on that side. Now, with the brush, you can sort of use it and take it over clean quills, but the problem that I have with this brush is that often it shaves off the very top, even when done lightly. So I don't often use a brush, but I thought that I would show you when you can. Now, it doesn't matter because the top of the quill, first of all, you're not going to see it, and second of all, it's not being looked at as it will be inside. But I never want to compromise the quality or condition of the feathers going forward. So just continuing with the same process, tier by tier, and I'll take another video when we get to the end, hopefully in about 20 minutes time. Okay, so I've been at this for about 25 minutes, just separating all the quills out. You can see that they all move pretty freely. There's a lot of give. I show you from the side. If I hold these outer coverlets and push them around, there's quite a lot of mobility. There are quite a few here that seem to be, again, I don't know the correct term for it, but they are very, very weak in comparison and slightly underdeveloped. They don't have the hard exterior that these quills do, where I can run, you can hear that sound. These ones they don't have it at all, they're very soft. You've got these ones completely free, able to be separated, and they sit inside the pocket. Now, the rest of the skin hasn't been looked at, but with regards to the tail, I can now take that to the wire wheel, which is just to basically buff it more than anything, just to get off the sort of the remaining parts that appear to be still a little bit fleshy. So I can now navigate in between each quill. Now that they're free, I can actually get the wheel in behind it and start to go between the edges in that grid formation, and that will just act as a kind of buffer, and it will sand off all the excess. But other than that, it's probably taken me about the best part of 40-45 minutes to do that. That's an average sized fan, verging on the small side. Probably about an hour for a full train, and then now just another sort of 10 to 15 minutes on the wheel. But it gives me peace of mind. I know that it's virtually all clean going forward, and it's just a matter of getting in between these grooves, which is now much easier because I can navigate like that around the wheel.